Oh, we could order a bunch of Dominoes to the next door neighbor and then just rob the delivery guy.
Over and over and over again. I can see the headline now. Domino's delivery man robbed 17 times before calling the cops.
17 times at the same location.
No, they might get wind. You just keep calling to all of the neighbors.
No, it's 7:03 this time, not 7:01.
You sound awfully familiar. No, I do.
I keep forgetting where I live.
I swear, this time it's right.
The people at 7:01 are total assholes. We're cool over here.
I'll totally rob you. Come here and don't get robbed.
Yep.
So that was 10 large.
And bring lots of money for change. I only have 100.
I only have large
Yeah, if we do
denominations.
this right, they could pay us for their food.
Want to ring the bell?
I'm taking it back. I'm taking them all back.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I'm a loner, Daddy. Rebel.
I am the walrus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to John Hates Movies, the movie review podcast where my friends stop me from getting on my plane back home and instead force me to live in the Australian bush for no reason.
For spite.
And instead force me to watch movies. I know that didn't really work out, but bear with me because this week we have our full cast. Then,
Hey,
yeah,
no sex-related injuries this week.
exactly. And we start off
Is that
with
what you guys said?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
We
Oh, yeah, sex. I'm sorry.
I mean, yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Chris was having sex
I
with
will-
a bandsaw.
It said it loved me. I mean,
No, he's having sex with an all-girl band named Saw.
Oh.
that sounds worse, almost.
Certainly more
They're a
exhausting.
punk band. Yeah.
That's right, we have with us this week Eric Largent.
Tally-ho.
We have Colin McMillan.
Does anybody else feel this heat? Whoa, it's so hot.
We have Chris Arsenault.
Thumb and all.
And last but not least, we have James Barrup.
We gotta be doing something. Fuck these guys. Fuck, they expect something. We gotta do something.
I must be seen at least attempting to film at least once every day.
And I am your host, Jonathan Barrup, and today we watched a very special film, another documentary, by the way. This one is called Lost Soul.
Which sounds cooler than it was.
It has a sub-second colon title.
Yes.
Oh, does it?
Yes. Lost Soul, or the telling of how Richard Stanley fucked up Island of Dr. Moreau. Or
I
whatever the
think
guy's name
that's
is.
it
I don't know.
verbatim, but it's close.
Yeah, I think it's like Lost Soul, the complete and utter shit show that is Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
That's a little bit closer.
So this revealing documentary chronicles the creative and financial debacle of director?
Debaco of Director.
I got a belly full of tobacco bell.
Take two. This revealing documentary chronicles the creative and financial debacle of director Richard Stanley and his fated 1996 film, The Island of Dr. Moreau, starring Richard Stanley, Fairuza Balk, Marco Hofschneider, and it was directed by David Gregory. This was a James pick.
Yep.
We were expecting weird, and we got it.
Yeah,
James, lead us
All
off.
right. Okay, first off, I gotta say that I love being in this podcast because this is one of those movies where you tell all your friends, you gotta watch this movie. I can't tell you why, but you gotta watch it. And then your friends never watch it because they don't know why they should watch it.
No, they trust their own judgment over
Yeah,
yours.
because anytime you make a recommendation to somebody, they go, Like this could be your fucking brother or your best friend, and they always are like, "Whatever, buddy, you don't know shit."
Well, with James, it's different. When he gives a recommendation, it's like, I should never watch that.
but because of this podcast, I can force you to.
Right.
That's right. You know what the best part about that is, James? We have so much power now, and we have people that specifically watch the movies that we choose.
Yep.
Before
it's
we
nice.
review it.
So,
Voluntarily, no less.
So I'll go ahead and try to give my summation a little bit before, because here's the thing: we all like movies here. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing a movie podcast.
It's not how I hear it. John hates movies.
Yep, that's true.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
That was a layup.
So at a certain point, you should, if you haven't seen this movie, you need to stop listening to the podcast and watch it.
No, never.
Eric disagrees, but anyway. So let me.
I think he was trying to tell you not to tell people to stop listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Listen
Finish
to
the podcast, watch it after.
Okay. If you want some awesome surprises ruined for you, then you can do that. So let me start by saying, like,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea where the fuck I am, what's happening. No. So,
What is happening?
yeah. When it
James
comes to stories about movies, there are a few stories that are always very interesting. One is the great or good movie that almost got made. I heard a rumor one time that Orson Welles penned a Batman movie back in like the 1930s.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, I was thinking that would have been cool too. It turned out to be complete bullshit, but probably the biggest one of these that I know of is the unmade Dune movie that was going to be with Geiger and
It was Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune, the greatest acid sci-fi cult movie never made.
Yep, yeah, the biggest one I believe I've heard of is that was actually real was Jodorowsky's Dune. I'm sure I fucked that name up horribly, but yeah, Geiger was slated to be in it, and Salvador Dali was slated to play one of the parts, and so. And there's lots of really amazing concept art out there about this movie. And the first half of this movie is pretty much that. There's amazing concept art. The director who was originally slated to be on it had a unique vision, something that was never made before. And it looked really interesting. I mean, disturbing. And kind of gross
We're talking about Lost Soul now, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Lost Soul. Yep. So the first half of this movie is that story. Mm-hmm. The other half of the movie, pretty much, is that when there's a bad movie and you want to hear the story about the clusterfuck that must have happened behind the scene. Most of the time, bad movies are made without a hitch. There's really no, like, the weather cooperates and all their equipment works, and they just happen to put a bad movie in the can and it's shit. Sometimes, though, everything goes wrong. This is the second half of this movie is this. So it's two of my favorite movie stories in one movie.
It is really like the perfect storm of how shitty movie making can be.
Yes.
Oh, man. And every time you think that, well, this is as crazy as it's gonna get. This is really interesting. They top themselves. Every time you think that, like, it just can't get crazier, they find a way to get crazier. And I love it. I love it. So, the last thing I'll say is that while I was watching this movie, I guess I'll say one thing. I watched Hardware.
Yeah, another Richard Stanley movie. The one that precluded his first movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the one. I don't think it was his first, but it was the one that got him the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, because then he did like the Western thing too.
Well,
I
and what I
didn't see the
gathered
Western one.
from what they mentioned about Dust Devil in
Dust
Lost
Devil.
Soul is I gather that Dust Devil is not very good.
Hardware wasn't very good. It was unfortunate because I was really expecting something unique after watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something like I mean, the good news is that, like, good news, he actually had some tone to the movie. There was actually, like, an atmosphere to it, but it really wasn't very good. There were a lot of flaws with it, and unlike the Island of Dr. Moreau that we got, it wasn't necessarily, like, standard movie lighting, just, you know, standard angles. Okay, shoot, put it in the can, let's go, do another take. But the last thing I'll say is that watching this movie, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I wonder if they just completely threw this away, and then they, you know, a few years later picked it back up and made the Island of Dr. Moreau as somebody completely different. And then he was like, yeah, and then somebody had the brilliant idea to hire Marlon Brando, and I was like, oh, that's a mistake. And that's all I have to say. So,
oh, man. May I?
Yes, let's get into it. Let's get into the juiciness.
I love documentaries, and I'm kind of glad we did 2 in a row, because I think that I'm in the mood for good docs right now. And I will say right off the bat, I very much enjoy this one too. A lot of stuff I did not know in this movie. I had seen the 96 Dr. Moreau. I don't know if it was like, it wasn't when it was in the theater, but I had seen it like sometime around when it was out, because that was one of those movies that came and went in the theaters. A bunch of people saw it that I knew, and they were like, this is the most terrible movie I've ever seen. It was just really, really awful. And I'm like, but I'm so intrigued. It's like, that looks so cool. And
the previews made it look great.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this cool speculative sci-fi animal people thing, and I was like, this can't be all that bad, and I saw it, and I didn't hate it when I first saw it, but I did rewatch it before I watched this, and I watched the 1977 one, and I really, really like good makeup and practical effects, and so there's, you know, I like that, but it was
Did you find any of that in the 96 version of The Island of Dr. Moreau?
I thought the hyena guy looks pretty cool, but like, you know... But really, the thing is, the effects are not the problem, and the problems are all made completely clear in this documentary. Essentially, the movie absolutely makes no sense if you don't know any... like the 4th Harry Potter movie, if you don't already know what it's about, this movie has absolutely... 96 Moreau has no continuity whatsoever. Like, you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Correct.
Yep.
It's just like... and they reveal in this documentary that is because it is literally just a bunch of random footage that they shot when they could, with essentially no script left after the hack job that they did to it, and they just kind of picked up the pieces.
Well, the guy shredded everything once he got fired.
Yes.
I think there were still scripts hanging out.
And Brando just didn't learn his lines.
They rewrote it. Okay. Yes. Oh,
Linda, I told you not to act.
I want to talk about Brando. Well, first I want to talk about Richard Stanley, because I am completely unfamiliar with Richard Stanley prior to looking into this, and so. Like,
for good reason.
I mean, who the fuck is Richard Stanley? He's washed up, unfortunately, and he seems like a nice enough guy. But like, this movie is essentially titled like The Madness of Richard Stanley. Like, they go hard on Richard Stanley is fucking crazy, and the movie starts, and here's Richard Stanley, and this kid is also, much like Eric Largent, a fan of the Red Mage.
Yes.
He fucking dresses like a red mage, and every single one of his movies has somebody in it like that was supposed to look like a red mage, including Dr. Moreau in his concept art. Like, this kid fucking loves red mages. So, Richard Stanley...
Wide brim hats.
Yeah, man. This guy is a Ren Fair nerd, basically. Like, this guy is the 1990s version of the fedora guy. So, but I mean, like, so we get a lot of quality time with Richard Stanley in this movie, and at first, you know, and they're really pushing like the insanity that was Richard Stanley's flop out fucking thing. In the beginning, you know, people are like, boy, you know, we met Richard Stanley, and
we knew something was off.
He just had this hat on, and we were like, wow. You know, he put 4 sugars in his coffee.
Yeah, 4 scoops of sugar in his coffee.
No
He's
sane man
obviously
would do
crazy.
That. Yeah. I'm just watching it going, man, I never want to go to L.A. Like, they're going to look at you and be like, those shorts, fucking commit that guy. Like, because you put 4 sugars in your coffee in L.A. and they think that you're, like, clinically insane. This is what I'm thinking when I'm watching this at first, because he seems like a dork, but he seems okay. Until this one line where he goes, well, was pretty nervous about my meeting with Marlon Brando, so I contacted a friend of mine who's pretty good at witchcraft. Right! And he starts talking about his friend.
He's changed things before.
Yes, he's talking about his friend who's a fucking wizard, and he's and he's completely serious. He's not, and this is Richard Stanley now talking about this guy, and he's not even going, I was young and so I went to a psychic. He's like, yeah, my boy, my wizard guy. I got a guy for black magic, and he's still 20 years later. This dude is still like serious about this shit.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I'm a wizard.
Well, yes, I am
wizard
a wizard.
myself.
I'm a wizard. But no, there's another thing. One of my favorite things about that is when they start giving you these little cracks in Richard's facade and start making him more readily apparent that he is in fact a freak show. My favorite thing about that, though, is how he still has the presence of mind to call out people like Fairuza Balk. And say things like, I don't think she had a clear understanding of geography.
Yeah. Like, he's talking about his witchcraft guy, and then he's like, well, Fairuza Balk is a little nuts, and I'm glad that they got to talk to Fairuza in this, because she always kind of fascinated me. She was like one of the 90s it girl for a second.
Yeah, she's like a Joey Lauren Adams.
Yeah, I am pretty sure this was the end of her career. I think that this was the one.
I mean, she did some stuff, like she was in like Waterboy,
Right.
Yeah. Adam Sandler movies where careers go to die.
Yeah, whatever happened to that chick that was in Billy Madison that was smoking hot?
I said where careers go to die.
Right.
Or where dying careers get another spark. Yeah. Just a tiny spark.
I was so shocked to see.
You're welcome, Rob Schneider.
And he never let that one go.
I was so shocked to see Winona Ryder and Mr. Deeds. I was like, Winona, what are you doing? So, I have a theory, though, about Richard Stanley.
Really? No one was going to say she was doing the deed?
Oh, Chris, another layup. Chris has 4 points so far in this game.
She was pretty hard up for cash, so she did Mr. Deeds done dirt cheap.
Colin, he's got 3 points. That was from downtown.
I'm back, baby. So, okay, I was thinking when I was watching this, and I'm looking at Richard Stanley, and I'm looking at his hat, and I'm looking at the shape of his face, and I'm looking at the way that he dresses, and I have a theory that Steve Coogan's character in Tropic Thunder is Richard Stanley.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh.
This whole time, like, he looks like motherfucking Steve Coogan. I'm like...
And if you think about that character, they're like, okay, so we had this, like, this dude is directed a couple indie films, and he got way in over his head with this big budget flick in Tropic Thunder, and he can't handle the actor egos. Like, Tropic Thunder is this story. It's just a Nam movie instead of Island of Dr. Moreau. And instead of getting lost, instead of wandering around Australia for 6 months, the guy steps on a landmine and dies. But seriously, Steve Coogan in Tropic Thunder is supposed to be Richard Stanley, don't you think?
Yes.
Yes. I think you're completely right.
Especially,
10,000% correct.
Especially since
I agree. We should have watched Tropic Thunder instead of Lost Souls.
Tropic Thunder's great.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
That is great. And what I love about Tropic Thunder is Tropic Thunder is a joke on Hollywood for Hollywood, and yet we all get it.
Yep.
And especially with such a legendary clusterfuck of a story like Richard Stanley's Moreau, that must be it. It's too much to be a coincidence. And Steve Coogan fucking looks exactly like Richard Stanley. All right, so
I don't consider this 97 Steve Coogan's Moreau because he had no control over it whatsoever.
No, he really got swept up in the tide of shit that was happening.
Oh yeah,
like really. Okay, so Richard Stanley is a doof, and like he is a wizard and whatever, but he's a red mage. But like, it was not his eccentricities that doomed this project.
No.
Well, it was his management skills.
I disagree.
Pretty much,
I disagree, but
he also had a bad what was it, CB or something?
Well, I say it's not his eccentricities. maybe his being way in over his head. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, or him not knowing how to manage anything.
Yeah,
like that's what doomed
I feel
it.
like
His
that's where it fell
inexperience.
apart. Yeah. That he wanted to do everything out of his house without actually talking to any of the staff, any of the actors, providing. I love that
was
like provides the sketches. I'm like, actually, that's really awesome.
Yeah,
because that's a really good indication. But you still have to tell people what they fucking are.
Yeah.
Well, I think
directing.
I think Val Kilmer scared the shit out of him. I mean, and by the way, good listeners at home, many of you may have heard the rumor that Val Kilmer is a huge asshole.
Yeah, we may have gotten into it on the Tombstone episode.
Well, if you ever needed some empirical evidence, like eyewitness accounts, this documentary has all you need. Because I'm going to say at least 40% of it is devoted to what a huge asshole Val Kilmer is. And he is a big asshole.
There's another 30% dedicated to how much of a doddering fool Marlon Brando was at that point.
Yep.
Okay, so this movie may have made Marlon Brando my hero because
don't worry about it.
Because it's like because his entire role in this production process is just massively trolling the entire fucking thing.
Yes.
Yep.
How can I ruin this scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what I realized about Marlon Brando.
What was it Brando said to Kilmer? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't know.
It was about.
I have a million boats. Or
Reefs.
I own a reef.
I own a reef.
I own 5 reefs.
I own 5 reefs. You know, he has a certain in his late years. He has a certain almost Orson Wellesian quality to him.
Yes.
I mean, he doesn't sound like him or anything, but you know, he's like he's that's sort of like, you know. Come on, fellas! Like, who can work like this? You know, he's the same way. He's like, I own 5 reefs, you know. But my favorite is actually my favorite is that everybody in this movie does an impression of Marlon Brando. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's Marco Hofschneider was my favorite for talking about Kilmer and Brando. Although poor Marco Hofschneider got seriously fucked over.
He really did.
Yeah.
And by a fucking 2-foot Puerto Rican.
Well, it's because he didn't, Marco didn't pass the Marlon Brando test.
Si, senor.
I love this guy.
He speaks better German than you do.
He's gonna be in every scene with me.
I want him
this
in
guy
every
in
scene.
every scene.
Fucking Marco came across as maybe the only sane interviewee.
I know.
Yes.
And his sheer volume of over-itness totally charmed me. Like, I came out of this a huge Marco Hofschneider fan just because that guy could not be more over anything in his life. He's so fucking funny about it. Which is funny because like he got hard fucked on this production.
Yeah, he was gonna be like the 4th lead, right?
Yep.
He was gonna be number 4.
I think he had the third most lines in the movie.
Monologues and shit, like the opening monologue of the movie and everything, and
doing Tempest shit.
Yeah, like reading Shakespeare. Like he had the best role in the original intended script, and then he just got fucked over by basically everybody, including Richard Stanley, because Richard Stanley couldn't manage his shit. So, but what I realized about Brando in this, and this made me laugh a lot. Besides everything about Brando being absolutely hilarious in this, but like, and the Fairuza Balk story about him, like, how do our characters interact? Oh no, my dear, don't worry about that. You're lovely.
You're getting paid. I'm getting paid.
The script doesn't make any sense. This is nonsense. Her impression of Brando is my favorite. So related to Brando, many of you have probably heard that I'm dipping my toe back into the world of acting, and I'm going to be doing this show at the Renaissance Festival, in which I'll actually be playing a wizard. So
shameless self-promotion.
Wait, many of our listeners would have heard that.
Oh, a lot of them are my friends or whatever. Like, so some of you may know. Some of you may know. I will be at the Michigan Renaissance Festival for the entire run this year, performing this pub crawl show, and I was much like Brando for Island of Dr. Moreau. I was sought out by the director specifically, and he said, I want you for my show, and and I like when I was an actor.
I want you.
When I was an actor,
show me the way.
So.
Okay, I'm done.
That was lovely, but if I may, so I was an actor for about like 15 years, and in that time, like I did Shakespeare, and I played leads, and I got to do all kinds of stuff, and I learned to sword fight, and like I went up and down, did everything that I could do, traveled and toured, and so all of the like artistic shit that you need to do in order to feel like you're getting whatever out of your artistic career. Like I did all that, and I made all my money off of the arts for a long time. So I've had my time in the arts to figure shit out. Like I don't have to play that one great role in order to feel good about myself or whatever. I've already done I've gotten what I need out of that shit. So I have like nothing at stake in this arrangement to do this. So I gave this guy a list of ridiculous demands. Including, I was like I pitched the most ridiculous costume to him because this is at the Renaissance Festival, but I won't be looking like anything from the Renaissance Festival. I will look like a black mage from a game from 1987. And I demanded it. I'm like, and I'm gonna wear my glasses. And if you've seen my glasses, they're like thick ass black, black rim. Like these will never pass for anything but completely contemporary eyewear. So I'm just like, I'll come to your Renaissance Festival show, but I'm not doing the whole Renaissance thing, and I'm leaving right after the last show. I'm not staying to the end gate, and I'm not doing this, and I'm not doing that, and I'm only going to do it if I can dress like a rainbow from the 80s. And he's like, yeah, man, I really want you in this. And then, so he gives me the script, and I look at it, and I went, what if I just rewrote all my lines? And so I realized after watching this that I'm fucking Marlon Brando right now in this show. Because you're
more like director Frankenheimer.
Frankenheimer. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah. Stories about that dude. So I realized that I'm sort of Marlon Brando because I'm like the Moreau costume that you see with like the crazy Pope outfit thing with the white.
Gonna have the ice bucket hat.
Yeah, like all the crazy shit that Moreau wears was Marlon Brando just seeing how badly he could fuck with the production crew. And
we need some peacock feathers.
What would make this really great is if we had some peacock feathers. I just think that would really pop. For what he got away with on the set of this movie, seriously, Marlon Brando became like my hero for trolling. There will be no greater troll, in my opinion, than Marlon Brando ever.
Right.
Seriously enjoyed this documentary. There's a lot of very funny stuff and stuff that will make you go, what? You will not believe. You won't believe the things that the sow lady has to tell you.
Yeah.
And I was really shocked that through the whole thing, there is not actually any mention of David Thewlis or the guy that plays the Hyena Man. So, I think that they, didn't realize
the joke.
Yeah, I think
that's unlike everyone else that was in the movie. David Thewlis still has a career.
Yep,
that is true.
Yes, I think what happened.
He was in a bunch of Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, he sure was. He's been in a lot of stuff. I think
he's also got some chops.
He's a very respectable guy in Hollywood.
Yeah. He's quite a good actor. And I think that even in this, he did as well as anybody could have with what he was working with. But I think what happened with David Thewlis is they finished the movie and then they forgot that they didn't have a castaway in it. Like, they forgot that they didn't have a main character in this movie. So they added him later and, called in for Zabalk and for a couple scenes, because it seems like he doesn't really have any effect on anything that goes on in the movie anyway. And,
but wasn't Bruce Willis supposed to be him?
Yeah, can you believe it? Bruce Willis was supposed to be him, and James Woods was supposed to be Val Kilmer.
And then the guy who was from Northern Exposure was supposed to play him. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that they have him talking about it and he just bailed halfway through. Nobody else talks about him or the fact that they cast another guy in that role. All right. That's all I got. If you want to watch a movie about a real Hollywood shit show, this is the documentary for you.
So who's next?
I thought it was interesting, James particularly talking about a documentary exemplifying a failure of making a film, and I feel like he's forgetting about the man who killed Don Quixote. Terry Gilliam's attempt to make Don Quixote.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Lost in La
Mancha.
Mancha.
Years.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Is that on Netflix?
I'm not sure it is, but I just wanted to point it out because,
yeah, that was another one.
That one looked really good. That one looked.
I've
really
seen
good.
it. I think you can. I think it might be on Hulu actually.
I've seen it. It is actually very interesting, and it was much easier to watch than this.
Hey.
Whoa! Hey! All right, Chris.
That said,
Talk to me.
I enjoy documentaries.
Yeah.
I think reviewing a documentary is kind of retarded. It's like we're performing some sort of post-review of a review.
Oh, yeah.
We don't actually get the opportunity for real interpretation. Instead, the interpretation has been made for us. We just get to agree or disagree.
Do you agree or disagree?
I think I disagree.
Fuck you, you're wrong.
Fuck documentaries.
No, I'm with you on that. It's more about when you review a documentary, it's more of a conversation and less of a review.
Yeah. As is evident from this documentary, Lost Soul, failure to make a decent film was entirely on Stanley's inability to manage.
Yep.
Because what he showed, he had an incredible vision. That's one of those things thrown around. I liked the mock-ups he had.
Mm-hmm.
Storyboards were great.
Yeah, those were pretty
amazing.
sweet.
And a lot of really vivid, imagination for a lot of vivid pictures. What the version of Moreau that we would have had from Stanley would have been a nice psychedelic.
Yeah.
And what we got was, brown.
Yeah.
But I want to say this. They spent more time talking about his other exploits. The director you know so little about that they have to spend almost as much time telling you why the person should have produced something better, just so you know why it's such a sad thing that he failed. He had incredible vision, like I said, poor directorial, and also suffering from a time when practical effects for what he was trying to accomplish weren't up to snuff. Not to say that they couldn't, but with lack of direction, lack of everything, plus you extended it over way too goddamn long, and stuff's gonna slough. Also, I noticed that they spent a whole hell of a lot of time not talking about the movie. Did you notice that? They talked about, the issue with H.G. Wells and
Joseph Conrad.
Joseph Conrad, yes.
Yeah.
They talk. Well, I mean, some background needs to be given, but it's like, hey, you want to know something, a phenomenal failure about someone you know nothing about? That's what this documentary was.
That's true.
And then, like I said, they spent more time talking about all this other stuff before ever getting around to talking about Island of Dr. Moreau. You guys are talking about Stanley appearing crazy.
Yeah.
Appearing?
Okay. I would like to mention what I noticed in this. This is what's amazing. They cobbled together multiple interviews.
Yep.
That were jumping back and forth through time from the 80s to 90s to recent. And the conversation flows without skipping a beat as if it took 30 years to complete a coherent thought from the man.
Yeah, you know what? Expanding on that, I noticed during his scenes, he would hold one of the he was a little bit unnerving.
Oh yeah.
And one of the unnerving things about him is he would hold completely still.
Oh yeah.
And then just mouth garbage out words.
Yes.
I'm serious. So there were a couple times that they were doing real sly cuts, but I caught him.
I noticed that.
Yeah, they were doing real sly edits where they would chop him up right in the middle of a sentence, where they would excise all the insane bullshit that I'm sure he was spouting and get to the point. Because yeah,
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
So a documentary trying its best not really to talk about what it's talking about. about a director failing to film a film, and then the whole project pretty much as best as it can trying to save a burnt steak, and that's what we got.
Yeah.
What's funny is that compared to Stanley and his inability to actually manage people, you have Frankenheimer, who was the complete polar opposite,
Right.
this like iron-fisted monster. Though he walked on, I was like, guys, give me time, let me sort this out, and we'll get this done. And then he becomes this dictator.
Yep.
And I love the scene in the documentary where they're all the workers are wearing the you do not have to obey these bastards. They're not gods.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a perfect line to
That is the movie.
everything.
Like,
That's
This-
the whole experience.
Yeah.
The making of this movie was a better Island of Dr. Moreau than the movie was.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
life imitated art so well in this story, and that's what I love so much, because they get hundreds of extras, and they're all living in the wild.
Yeah.
And they're all doing
Yeah.
tons of drugs and fucking, and meanwhile, the director is living like Moreau in his, like,
Yes.
little fortress, acting like a god.
Yes.
There we go.
And that's what's sad about it. It was an interesting documentary, but yes, when it comes down to it, the documentary wasn't very good. But the meta image,
Yeah.
like what it's the overall image of this by the end of the documentary, you realize imitating the story it's trying to portray. You're
Yeah.
like, okay. And then you decide you're gonna watch Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've seen it
Yep.
before. I've seen the '96. I've never seen the '77 or the earlier one.
Yeah, I mean,
Lost Soul.
The 77 is marginally more boring.
Okay, fair enough. But to be fair, like I said, I've seen the Island of Dr. Moreau before. I think the first time I saw it, I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really cool. Just because it wasn't something you tend to see. It was a little bit more offbeat than a lot of science
Yeah,
fiction.
that's how I felt,
speculative fiction. But then I know I watched it not too long ago, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this movie's kind of bad. And this time, I think I made it halfway through it before I decided to do something else.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the first time I just thought it was cool that they made a sci-fi about animal people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's enough to get me through it and be like, oh, that's so cool. But yeah, watching it again, I was like, wow, this is barely a movie.
Yeah.
That said, I would don't watch this. don't watch Lost Soul. Don't watch Island of Dr. Moreau. Any of them.
Definitely
However,
don't watch
I've
it.
read the book. The
H.G. Wells.
the story's based off. It is really interesting.
I'm sure Time Machine is better than that Guy Pearce movie that came
Time
out.
Machine is really good because, again, similar to Island, it's mostly entirely narrative driven, like from first person.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Because like I said, you get to absorb it through the eyes of the individual, and H.G. Wells did a really good job of that, I feel. That said, I think at this point in time, if he were still around, he'd probably be more angry with Frankenheimer and Stanley than he ever was with Conrad.
Oh, for
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
For bastardizing his ideas, yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll pick it up there, Chris.
All right.
So a few of the things that I noticed on the movie. So first off, my favorite guys from the movie, or my favorite thing about the documentary itself, were the two Australian
Oh yeah,
like
the extras.
like dirtbags or whatever they were. Like just
the crew guys.
yeah, just a couple of guys that were hanging out. Like one of them got fired from the movie, and
Yeah,
then just
like 3 times.
Yeah, he got fired, and he came back as something else.
His
And
driver and extra,
Right.
just like grip or some shit.
yeah, so apparently he was the guy that was in the car when Fairuza Balk, all in a huff, jumped into the limo and was like, "Take me to Sydney," and he was like, "All right." And he just like drove her around.
It was like 400 miles
Right,
away
yeah.
from the set. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're on the north coast, and
To be
Sydney's
fair,
quite
it's
a bit more.
Australia. Nothing is close to anything else.
No.
It's probably like an afternoon drive for him.
Right.
Yeah.
You would think after like hour, let's say 8, she would have been like, "Where are we?"
Okay, so
Yeah, no kidding.
So, Chris, you bring me to another point. David Stanley, his lack of movie, or Richard. Sorry, Richard Stanley. Oh yeah, the director was David Gregory. I'm getting like David Gregory and Richard Stanley are a couple of fucking vanilla British names, and I'm getting them mixed up big time.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
2 guys, 4 first names.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
gold.
so part of what you're talking about is like how Richard Stanley was such a green director,
Yeah.
in that he picked a site for his location so far away from like any kind of civilization that like anybody would have to drive an hour to get to set.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's insane.
It's fucking stupid.
It's really stupid just because maybe you could see a mountain in the background.
Yeah, just fucking.
No!
Yeah, take
I love
stills
everyone
of the
else.
mountain and fucking
Yeah.
you know.
Make it drop.
Yeah.
Make it drop.
Well, I love everyone else. You can see the mountain from everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Frankenheimer bitching that like he couldn't do shots because the angle he had to do because he's so goddamn close to the mountain.
Right.
Yes.
Another thing regarding the production. So this was a New Line Cinema joint.
Yep.
And we got an awful lot of talk from the former, and I don't know if he is current, CEO of New Line Cinema. He was the guy that, you know, he just seemed like an old Hollywood dude. That guy is maybe the biggest fuck up of all these people.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
he okayed all of this.
Yep.
And while okaying all of this, he was like, you know what? Why don't we put an extra 1.5 mil in the budget for a backup director? Because I know this is going to fail, but let's go for it anyway.
Yeah.
And like, they were like,
Yeah.
even kind of talking about like, well, what are we going to hear back from set in Australia today? How fucked up is it going to be now? Is Richard Stanley going to be walking around and mumbling about how he has to be seen to be shooting something every day?
And they chose the one spot in Australia that has 90% rainfall.
The purple.
Oh my
the
God,
purple
I know.
Yeah.
That's Richard Stanley's fuck up.
Yep.
Like do some fucking like backup information lookup stuff.
It's research.
So I think
Yes. Okay, I guess research is a better word for backup information lookup stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
know,
you guys are better
I
with the word English.
you know, Eric, I think if that guy from New Line was buying a house, he would be like, hey, you know, I bought this house and it's really great, but I think I'm going to buy another one because I really want to have an open fire pit in the living room of that first one. And just in case something goes wrong, I'm going to buy a second house just in case.
Yeah.
They could have saved themselves a lot of time and money by throwing a air quote assistant to Stanley. Who
Yeah, they
was,
talked
like,
about
essentially-
he needed a first AD.
Yep.
Right.
And
The one that he had was
How did
awful.
they not-
He chose the mountain.
Yeah, pretty much he needed someone who themselves was probably a director with a lot more technical background than anything to be his second half, because that's where he was, well, not on a technical level, but you know what I mean, someone who could actually, you know, reel in and do this where he just was off in the clouds apparently.
Yeah, so
Well, Stanley basically needed training wheels,
Yes,
and they didn't give him any.
yes, that's a
and
better word to find.
throughout this documentary, we heard from Frankenheimer's first assistant director, and he was like, "Yeah, look, like this was kind of a shit show." And so throughout the production or throughout the documentary, the only person that's willing to step up for Frankenheimer was his boy, his first assistant director, and I think because like just like just like Brando and Kilmer, where they spent 30% of the movie shit talking them, they spent another 30% shit talking Frankenheimer. Like everybody had a Frankenheimer. Everybody had a Frankenheimer impression.
Yep.
Everybody had a story. Everybody had some shit to everybody had some dirt to throw in his fucking coffin. But John Frankenheimer is a good director. John Frankenheimer has clout. He has a resume. Like, he has real life. He won four Emmys.
He made a bunch of movies.
Yeah. No, he is a real director. So when I went into this movie, since the real director of the real documentary, David Gregory, has a name that sounds so familiar to Richard Stanley, at the beginning of the documentary, and really throughout most of it, I thought the documentary was Richard Stanley telling his own story. So when we got to the Frankenheimer part, I was like, oh yeah, so here's where he starts talking shit about the guy that took over for him. But like, I have no idea why saying Frankenheimer was a dick had anything to do with anything. It really didn't.
Right.
It really didn't.
Yeah.
Like, Frankenheimer being a dick had nothing to do with why this movie was bad.
I think it was.
That's true.
It's like when you're already in a shitty mood, and then someone's a little bit curt to you. They're
Right.
suddenly a huge fucking asshole.
Frankenheimer did make a lot of bad decisions. One, he took the job when he didn't fucking care about it at all.
Straight cash, homie.
Yeah,
He was straight cash, homie.
Yeah.
pretty much like New Line was so scrambling for somebody to just fucking hold this bomb, this fucking turd.
He got a 4-picture deal.
I know.
I'm serious. He got a 4-picture deal for like picking up this bomb.
Yeah.
Like that. Like Frankenheimer made smart business decisions.
Well, I mean,
know what, though?
and two,
I think-
he didn't invest anything once he had it.
No.
Yeah. He was just like, I don't care about any scripts. Just give me something to work with.
Nope.
We'll just churn it through.
Yep.
Well, and I think that like people thought he was a huge asshole because by the time he got there, like everybody was just kind of like
Partying.
hanging out and partying. Yeah,
Someone had
like,
to be an adult.
Like Fairuza Balk says like 4 times, well, Richard Stanley, he was my friend. It's like, well, that's wrong.
Okay, so Colin, you bring me to another great point. Did anybody else get the impression that Fairuza Balk and David Stanley or Richard Stanley, they had a relationship, right? Like they
yeah, I mean, at the
wonder,
very
but,
least, they had an emotional relationship. Like they might, I don't know if they were sleeping together, but they were definitely like set boyfriend.
yeah, they
girlfriend,
were
for
very
sure.
close. Like and
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They were work married.
I mean,
I
that
think
kind of
I think she had the like indie girl crush on him. You know what I mean? Like because she's always been sort of in that little niche in the role, where like that's where she kind of lives. And it seems like Fairuza Balk in her normal self is still kind of like that. Like that's what I got out of this. So I think that, she hates on the Hollywood sellouts and all that shit, and Richard Stanley represents the like indie dream of the
Pure
indie weirdo
artist.
boy. Yeah, pure artist, which, is a crazy person, but like
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because she was the only person in this entire documentary to actually refer to any of this as art.
what did she really call this art?
Yeah.
Wow.
What it's supposed to be.
Well,
Yeah.
the only art that happened in the documentary or the movie were the storyboards.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
And those had nothing to do with what the final movie became.
Yep.
So the last thing I'll say is the very best thing. I loved the 2 Australian guys that were just like, yeah, it was fucking crazy. But the very best thing about the documentary is like they had a part in it, and that is they fucking found Richard Stanley in the bush and brought him back to the fucking set.
that's unbelievable.
Richard
That's
Stanley
unbelievable.
was in the movie that he started, that he wrote the script for, that he was directing for 5 days, and got fired from. And they like had to put him on a plane.
And I love that the
They
one
had a restraining order against him.
Right.
I love that the one guy was like even complimenting on how good of an extra he was.
Richard Stanley was a spectacular dog man.
And the first assistant director was like, yeah, and there's this one dog man that just wouldn't take his mask off. And we're like, what's the deal? It's 100 degrees out here. Brando needs a fucking trash can full of ice on his head to get through the movie. So anyway, like I
So funny.
So I entirely enjoyed watching the documentary. I watched the movie before watching the documentary, and I watched the movie for the very first time in my life. And oh Jesus Christ, is this movie
I'm sorry.
is this movie ever a shit show? Like,
Yes.
and watching the documentary and leading up to watching the movie, you would have no fucking clue that David Thewlis is the main character. And that he has the most lines, and that, like, the movie, like, he was the guy in the movie.
You would think you were watching the wrong movie.
Yeah.
But this was a David Thewlis movie, and nothing that happened made sense. Val Kilmer, I don't know what kind of cocaine he was on, but it looked awesome. And the movie was terrible. I fast forwarded, like, I kind of just I jumped like 30 seconds through the entire third act because, like, okay, so then they kill Brando, and then they kill Val Kilmer, and then they just, like, have, like, wild beast on the island, and that's it. Like, okay, there's the movie, there's the story. It's all stupid.
And then once again, of course, at the end of the fucking movie, we go like they did this in the remake of Planet of the Apes with the Tim Roth one. You might have forgotten about that. The whole, like, animal gets hands on gun, and then oh no, the gun was your own undoing.
Right. Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah. So the movie's terrible. The Island of Dr. Moreau movie is terrible. The documentary is pretty good. I didn't mind the background story for Richard Stanley, because the documentary is kind of trying to make him a sympathetic character. Like that, like they obviously have that in mind when they're doing this.
They did?
Yeah.
I can't sympathize with that.
Right.
So you may find yourself in that position.
Right. So they're doing all that
you
stuff.
lost me at witchcraft.
Yeah. So they did all that stuff to make Stanley a sympathetic character. He could be a sympathetic character, but he was also the author of his own demise.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
So it's a real fun story to hear. If you've seen the Island of Dr. Moreau movie, watch the documentary.
Yeah, there you go. I would agree with that. If you've seen the movie already, watch Lost Souls so you understand why it was such a shit show.
Yeah.
You owe that to
but
yourself.
But if you haven't,
Don't
like,
bother.
it's probably not worth
Watching the movie.
See, like, it's probably not worth it, honestly, because, like, you're not going to get that time back, and the movie itself is really awful.
Yeah.
But also, Frankenheimer, he came up with that decision to be like, well, I want Brando to take off his hat at the end and have him be a dolphin.
I thought that was Brando.
That was Brando.
Yeah, that was Brando.
Oh, that was Brando's idea?
Yeah.
Oh,
He takes off his hat and he's a dolphin.
Come on, Brando.
That would have been a better movie.
Yeah.
If he actually made that happen, that would have been like there will.
it would have been the biggest fuck you to the watcher of that movie.
As far as
and 30
trolling
minutes.
goes, the best there ever was, the best there ever will be.
It'd pretty much be a James joke. It takes forever to get to the punchline.
And then he starts singing the theme from The Fresh Prince.
I don't have a punchline. I never have a punchline. Oh, yeah. But actually, when you were talking about the New Line CEO, it was his idea to hire Brando.
That's right.
And because and then the guy was like, why are we going to do this? We just worked with him on blah, 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 and he was a fucking terror.
Right.
And yet we're going to put $6 million in his hands.
So that New Line
again?
CEO was just sitting back and watching the world burn.
Yeah,
Like
he was
He
near
was. He was like, why would you send a totally green director? And what is the deal with that interview with Brando? Like, the other woman that was sent out there just, like, fell asleep? That was such a surreal...
That's weird. It's weird that all of a sudden a woman takes a drink in Brando's house and passes out. Like, that's not good.
The Brando's house story was pretty surreal to picture. I was like, I was like, what? This sounds really strange. Like, does he live in Wonderland or something?
He lives in Brando land.
So, Eric, you done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, earlier Chris brought up the point that it may seem silly occasionally to review documentary. And I wanted to address this because this is our second one in a row, and I really hope it's not our last.
Because I wanted to address this because I wanted to say "fuck you, Chris."
No, I hope it's not.
But
our
I'm
last.
injured.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be mean to Chris. But the reality is that there are good and bad documentaries, and I think this is kind of a bit of a bad one.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's great, and here's primarily why. It all depends on what the job is of the documentary. Is the job to raise awareness, make a point, be an advocate for something like Bigger, Stronger, Faster, or is the job to tell a story?
Yeah, this is definitely a story.
This is definitely telling a story, and it doesn't really tell the whole story. It leaves
doesn't.
big gaps, and I think you're right. I think they were trying to make
Richard Stanley.
Yeah, Richard Stanley sympathetic.
Yeah.
And I think they were definitely
Nobody comes out sympathetic in this dog.
No, nobody
Except
does.
for the two Australian dudes.
Yes,
And
those dudes.
the German
Actually, no,
actor.
Marco.
Yeah, the
Hobbs,
German
yeah.
actor.
Marco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
He's so over it. He doesn't need your.
Actually, Fruzeball didn't acquit herself too poorly. She came out all right.
No, some people definitely acquitted themselves very well, but there's a lot more going on in this production, and I've taken a little bit of time to read about it from the Wikipedia, and I found out stuff that wasn't in the documentary that I think really should have been in the documentary if it's actually accurate. A lot of the stuff needs citations to back it up. So, but
Let's hear it.
yeah, I
More
want
craziness.
So,
Yeah, talk to me.
Absolutely.
obviously, here's the thing, and this really bothered me. I'm a huge Rob Morrow fan. I love Rob Morrow, and
Yeah, that's the name of
Mr. Northern Exposure, who was
Right.
also in one of my favorite movies of all time, Quiz Show, which was him and Ray
Yeah,
Fiennes.
Quiz Show is great.
Quiz Show's awesome. So Rob Morrow, they dropped him from the documentary halfway through, just like he escaped from the damn movie. And
Well, I believe the interview that they had with him was an old interview. Where he's talking about.
it could be, or he, I don't know.
I felt like he just gave him an hour of his time and then was like,
Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
bye.
that's possible. That's
Maybe.
possible. But I mean, they didn't actually even say, they said that he wanted out, but why did they didn't go into why he got away, and Fruzeball got dragged back in.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah.
They just,
yeah.
and so that never came up. And, honestly,
She didn't try farting.
how is
He
it?
got on a plane. She got in a car.
Well, he had the number of the CEO.
Right.
she just got in a limo and tried to get
That's
away.
right.
He went to
She had that
Sydney. He went to
Australian dude.
Alaska.
Right. But, and then here's another thing.
Yeah.
Thulis,
Yeah.
he's in this movie.
Yeah, I needed.
Yes,
I really did need to at least hear his name said at least
and
once.
I don't know if that's like intentional or what happened there, but here's some stuff about what Thulis has said about the
See,
movie.
this is interesting. I would like to have heard this in the
Exactly.
movie. Like what
Yeah.
his
I
thoughts
was waiting for an interview with him or at least somebody to talk about
so
it.
Thulis said we all had different
They can
ideas
get
of
the
where it
rights.
should go. I even ended up improvising some of the main scenes with Marlon. So
You
apparently,
don't
what
That doesn't
happened
surprise me.
is that Thulis, who at this time, while he may not have had like the draw power of Marlon and Val, he was very acclaimed. Like that movie, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but he was in this movie. One of his earlier performances. It's a movie called Naked. That's almost entirely improv, and he's just absolutely brilliant in it. It's really, really interesting. So he's got chops, and he's very smart, and he does some stuff. But you remember how they were saying that Brando refused to basically learn his lines, right? Well, the other half of that is that the lines kept changing because Thulis was the one who kept rewriting the script.
Whoa.
Mm.
Yes.
Really?
Thulis wanted complete control over his character and sent it
Whoa.
to constant rewrites. And those constant rewrites got onto Brando's nerves, and that's when basically he had that radio receiver. And this, I don't know how you leave this out. And this is a quote from Thulis. Marlon, and he's talking about the radio receiver, right? Marlon would be in the middle of a scene, and suddenly he'd be picking up police messages and would repeat, "There's a robbery at Woolworths." How can you not include something like that in this film?
That's amazing.
Well, they alluded to it with the damn it, Martha, don't try to act.
Exactly.
Yep.
But that's even better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a robbery
at
And so here's a couple of things too. And here's
There's
some
robbery at
stuff
Woolworths.
that I was wondering about. We all know that Kilmer's a dick.
It gets to me at Woolworths.
Yes.
Yep.
This was a shit show. This was a horrible experience for everybody involved. People were acting like total asshats throughout the big stars were acting like total asshats. But Brando's, and they just like kind of skipped right over this. They mentioned it and then put it to bed. Brando was dealing with the suicide of his daughter when this movie was being filmed. Kilmer was in the middle of a very nasty divorce with Joan Wally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, explain why he's an asshole in every other
Oh
film.
no! I mean, I'm sure he's an asshole, but I can only imagine that this would have just aggravated it.
Yeah,
yeah.
so these guys were both kind of unraveled.
Yeah. So I mean,
They both had their asshole game on
yes,
fleek.
exactly. They've got it dialed up to 11.
Yeah.
Although it is interesting. Apparently, Frankenheimer, at the very end of Kilmer's final scene, when they filmed it, he said, "Cut. Now get that bastard off my set."
Yeah. Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And now apparently Richard Stanley repeatedly told the production designer that he to burn the set down.
Oh.
And so that
wait.
is why everybody was scared of Richard Stanley. Is that apparently
Wait, while he was directing or
apparently
Probably after.
before when he was directing.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, yeah, because he was so he knew that he wasn't gonna be able to cut it. So if the set burns down, then that oh no, we can't make the movie, and it's not Richard Stanley's fault.
Yeah.
Well, but this is really interesting, all this, because it really lends itself to we're supposed to like Richard Stanley in this documentary, and Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer, they were the assholes, and man,
Yep.
but so of course you leave that out.
But that's the thing, is that there's all this information that you just put in the documentary. I could care less about some of the background. I could care less so much about Richard's interviews. If you're going to tell me a story, tell me the full fucking story. Don't leave out one of the major players, especially if he contributed to the shit show. And if Thulis was continuously rewriting the damn script under the actors, then he was a part of it,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Everybody was a part
Exactly.
of this shit show.
Even the pig woman.
Yep.
I loved her.
Yeah. She wasn't bad at all, actually.
And apparently,
Very attractive.
Val Kilmer
She's pretty cute under there.
did eventually end up apologizing to Richard Stanley for Stanley's removal from the film.
Oh, is that so?
And apparently, Thulis skipped the premiere of the film. So he knew it would
I
be a
don't
big deal.
blame him.
So, those were like the added stuff, and that's kind of the point that I want to get. I've seen a lot of documentaries, and a lot of documentaries are very good at showing you something. They're either advocating or they're telling you a story, and they can be good. There are bad ones too. Now, this one, I wouldn't say skip, but is it the best example of this kind of story? No. There are other documentaries that do a better job of showing something that was supposed to be grand fall apart. The first part of the documentary, like Colin said, they do all these interviews with people about Richard Stanley, and they're all like, he's so crazy, he's so nuts, 4 sugars, what the fuck? Oh my god, world's ending. And the interview, and he's a fast talker, and he's got some nervous tics, but for all intents and purposes, he's completely lucid. And they do great editing on him, and they do cutbacks. And, it'll be like something, and they'll even put him in a light where he's like totally lucid, where he's responding to something that, is like.
I love how you're painting him like an insane person that the movie just made to be sane.
I really think
could be
that
the
was
case.
the case.
Yeah.
I think
And that's the thing. All these people are saying he's nuts, and his interviews, they're totally fine. And, they'll cut to Fruza Balkan saying, I'm going to leave, and then I'm going to go to Sydney, and they cut back to him, and he says, I don't think she had a really clear understanding of geography, which is a very understated British way of making fun of somebody, which is completely normal. And it cuts back to her, and she's like, oh, I don't know, maybe I did. Maybe I went to Sydney, maybe I was all cracked out. And then, so they could do this, but then you hear stories about him from the other people, and they keep doing those other stories. And these stories that these people are telling about Richard Stanley, they may be hyperbole, but maybe they're not, and they're kind of nutty. So here's the point that I'm trying to get when James says that this is surprising. So all that did was annoy me, right? I was like, why are all these people talking about him like he's crazy when obviously I'm seeing him in interviews and he's not crazy? And then they give the big fucking plot twist at the end, which is that when Richard Stanley gets put on a plane to go back home, he leaves. And everybody's like, oh,
he doesn't
where's
get on the
Richard
plane.
Stanley? So they need more extras. They decide to hire a bunch of extras from the local hippies and dropouts. These are people who are constantly cracked out and just nuts. And they've got a legend about this dude who wanders around the bush and, like, all he can do is bitch about how Val Kilmer ruined his life. And these two fucking stoned out roadies are like, what? Because they know who the fuck he's talking about. And they go get Richard Stanley, who is living in the Australian bush in a fucking bathtub.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, at that point, I'm like, holy shit, this dude is bonkers. I never saw that coming. This is a complete surprise. Is that enough to make this documentary worth it? No. Does it put it in a more interesting light? Yeah. But that's the thing.
Yes, yeah.
If the dude is really crazy, if the dude is a nut bar, show me the nutty. You know what I mean? Alrighty, so we are going to take a very short break, and when we are back, it will be time for the game, which hopefully will not be as much of a shit show as this movie.
But
We'll be right back.
No guarantees.
No guarantee.
Did you know John Hates Movies has a website? johnhatesmovies.space. That's johnhatesmovies.space. There you can find our latest episodes, cast bios that are wonderfully accurate, completely true, and links to our web store. While you're at the web store, be sure to buy a I Roll with Eric's Dad t-shirt. It's got a wonderful picture of a truck, and it'll allow you to proclaim your love for my dad to the world. Do you roll with my dad? I do. You should too. So check us out at johnhatesmovies.space because our website's on a spaceship, apparently. All right, back to the show.
And we're back.
All right. And we're back.
And we're back. Yes, that's right.
Whoa.
So, James.
What is happening?
We're all animal people. James, I believe.
Oh.
I love that.
They all have their different chicken. They all have a different chicken.
And none of them is bok bok bok.
Kiku, go kiku.
All right, James, I believe you are running the game this week. Tell us, what have we won?
A brand new toaster!
Yay!
You mean Schmeckle Raider.
Yeah, sorry, Schmeckle Raider.
Oh,
From
Schmeckle
Blarf
Raider.
Industries.
Remember Blarf Industries, guys?
It'll schmeckle your junk. Okay, so here's my game. I will ask you questions 3. Yeah, keep your answers kind of short because I'm going to ask all of you 3 questions, and best answer wins. Because I am the only god. I am the only god here.
Okay.
God number 1.
Yeah.
So,
But you all ate God. Sorry.
okay, so first question: what animals would you combine for the betterment of humanity?
I would blend an owl with a cheetah. And
Are you trying to kill us all?
And I would blend an owl, a cheetah, and a human because everybody knows, because of Tootsie Pops and Winnie the Pooh, that owls are wise.
Yes,
and we want very wise people. And cheetahs, we all know, are like the best thing that can do a thing, like running. So we want like a superhuman that can run really fast, but is also really wise and won't kill anybody.
Gotcha. That's
wise Flash. Got it.
Yes.
Alright.
Yeah, they would make the Flash.
I got one.
All right.
So I would combine a pig and a fish, a pigfish.
Okay.
And I would do it because everybody knows that eating a lot of fish is very healthy, and you can get very slim by eating a lot of fish. But I would like it to taste like bacon, please.
That's a solid answer.
See, I was going to say a cow and a whale.
Mhm.
If you had whale-sized cows, think of all the steaks you could have.
Oh.
That's almost better.
And whale milk. Whale milk.
Whale milk. Shit.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure
I bet it
whales
would
do
actually
produce milk.
be blue.
like in Star Wars.
Exactly.
Blue. Yeah.
Aunt Beru, serve it up.
Whale milk on the desert planet.
Pigfish.
I would combine a giraffe and a corgi because I think that would look funny.
And it would only sleep a half hour every day.
Little tiny legs, great big long neck.
That's so funny. Poor guy.
He keeps falling over.
Yo, you can't do it.
What? A thing?
you don't
He
have to-
can't do a thing.
But you don't have to bend over to pet him.
All right. So, next question. Describe the society you would form as God King of your own island.
In my island society, you can park anywhere you want.
Damn it, I literally just wrote that.
Aww.
Well, in my island society, you can park anywhere you want, and cops give you ice cream.
Yeah, well, in my island society, you can park anywhere you want, cops give you ice cream, and everyone's a wizard.
Hey, you don't get to go twice. You actually went 3 times. Which is funny because on your 3rd try, you went back to everybody being a wizard. What's wrong with you?
I like it. I'm a wizard.
No,
In John's Perfect Society, everybody can go 3 times.
In John's Perfect Society, we're lucky if we can go once.
Wow.
Whoa!
That's terrible.
It's a good thing it's my turn to edit.
All right. So who's next?
I'm still thinking. Colin, you got anything?
I'm sorry. Well, first off, everybody gets a corgi giraffe. So that's cool. And I get 2, and they sit on both sides of me in my glorious golden throne. And Every day, somebody from the island is required to come into my chambers to talk to me. And they can just talk. They can just rap with me about whatever's going on.
Sounds kind of desperate, Colin.
I get to make the rules.
Yeah, it's true. He does.
I am God King of my island, and everyone will be my friend. We farm stuff and eat animals. It's cool. I don't know. Pretty peaceful utopian society where everybody gets a corgi giraffe. That's a really important part. And everyone is my best friend.
Okay, so in my island society, we only have like a total of, let's say, 20 to 22 people. And it's enough for to field 2 different baseball teams. And what we do is we kind of take every morning off and we just kind of relax by the beach and, swim and eat some fish and eat some like whale meat and whatever. And then in the evenings, we just play a baseball game and then go back and take a nap.
That sounds awesome.
That's not too bad.
No, it's not.
The beer
Throw in a
trees.
pigfish and I'm there.
Yeah. And beer grows on trees.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
Ding! This can is right.
Yeah, but who's gonna get that beer out of the tree, Eric?
That's what we do.
Corgi giraffes.
No, we just
That's why they got long necks.
we just
to fetch beer. Duh.
just like Chris during this episode, we only pick the low hanging fruit.
Wow. Ouch. Yikes.
Did I mention I'm hurt?
There will be an open position on next week's John Hates Movies episode.
All right. So, Chris, was yours? You park anywhere and get ice cream?
Park anywhere. Plus, cops give you ice cream. So if you get pulled over, they soften the blow with ice cream. Here, sir, I need you to sign this ticket for going 15 over, and here's an ice cream bar. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Good.
That
Here's
should be
an ice cream
mandatory.
sandwich. Here's a giant bowl of coffee ice cream. Mint chocolate chip. Waffle cone. Okay, so in my society, cops are actually ice cream vendors.
They're
Cops drive the ice cream truck.
Yeah. They go.
I gotta say, how excited would you be to get pulled over?
No, because they only drive 10 miles an hour, so you can always.
Oh shit! Is that the cops, dude? I'm pulling over. We're at the Ninja Turtles with the gumball eyes. I get some extra points. All right. So, okay. So this the Island of Dr. Moreau, the 97 version, there was a lot of talk of the devil, and it can be said that the doctor made a deal with the devil. So the last thing is the deal with the devil. There are plenty of wishes, though none are free. So tell me your wish, and I'll grant it to thee. So tell me your wishes.
So you're playing the devil?
Yes.
That was sad.
Yeah, I'm the wimpy devil. I'm the wimpy devil. Come on, I'm just an intern.
Okay, I've got a couple wishes here.
Just one wish.
Just one?
Just one.
Oh no!
But nothing is
Well,
free.
wish for a million more wishes.
No, I've still got my wish.
Okay.
Okay. So just like Robert Johnson did back in the 50s,
Sweet.
I'm gonna trade my soul for one, the ability to play the guitar very well, and two, to be like Bo Jackson at playing sports.
Okay, so your wish is granted. So your wish is granted. You become a world famous icon, and as a result, nobody will ever leave you alone. But you also your testicles shrivel up and you have no sex drive.
What?
And you're impotent.
No!
So you have all this money, but no time to spend it, and no loving to come.
So is the goal here to like
Beat the devil.
beat the devil? Okay.
You know what? I think I did beat the devil.
Yeah.
I can shred on the guitar. I can hit dingers.
No, you can't.
I can slam dunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with my deal.
All right. So who's next?
Okay, I want to establish something. All devils grant wishes?
Yes.
Okay, I wish for 3 other devils.
You get 3 other devils, but none of them are in the mood to grant wishes. Instead, they just poke you in the ass the rest of your life.
Fair enough. If, though, I in fact had 3 more wishes, my first wish would be to make everyone deaf so nobody could hear Eric play the guitar.
Oh man!
Why you gotta be like that?
I was gonna use my wishes to fuck over here.
And then the second wish.
Fuck Colin.
Well, yeah, the devil will
Talk about
really
low-hanging
just
fruit.
fuck Colin. And the third devil will make odd creaking noises around John the rest of his life.
That is.
Oh wait, no, take that back. We'll do strobe lights when you least expect it because everyone's deaf. Forget about that. Also, thumb up on your sign language, bros.
All right.
It'll also be the end of the podcast.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, James. Chris wished that he wished fuck me. What happens to me?
No, though, I mean, that never happened. This devil's just poked
Oh,
him in
that's
the
right.
ass.
Because they just
Yeah.
poked me in the ass. Right. They were just okay.
All my wishes ended up being speculative.
Yep.
Much like this movie. Speculative fiction.
If I hadn't blown my wish, I would wish.
Yeah, but let's face it, I got off pretty easy.
I got my corgis, my corgi giraffes. I have all my best friends. There's only one person I wish was on my island with me.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Christina Ricci.
Chris.
Nope.
What?
What?
Oh, he's got a girlfriend now, guys.
Oh, that's right.
No, it's not Christina Ricci. It's somebody else.
Perusa Bulk.
No.
Wait,
I don't know.
so
I
you're
give
just
up.
wishing for another person to be on your island with you?
Well, there's only one person that I wish would be on my island with me. It's not my girlfriend. It's not any of my Hollywood boos.
Who? Then who?
Dave Thomas, founder of
Wow, well played, sir. Well played.
Oh, I think Colin beat the devil. Holy shit.
Slow clap. Eric.
Whoa, you got me. You got me.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Did anyone else see that coming?
No, I didn't see it coming. No.
I didn't see it coming, but I trained myself not to ask who.
Oh, my God.
Oh man, I'm so happy.
Oh.
So, John, what's your wish to beat the devil?
Whoa. I was just trying to be a good podcaster and move things along.
That's what editing is for.
Oh, goodness gravy. Yeah, how do you follow that? Can I wish to beat the devil?
I'm so happy.
I mean, if that's the goal here, the goal is like, hey man, beat me.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I wish I could beat you.
Gang.
Yeah, it was
Pretty big loophole.
I was like thinking, well, okay, you get like whipped devil or like like a creamy topping or something, but no. Yeah, okay, that's worth a point.
All right, fair enough.
But the winner is
I see your check marks.
Yeah,
I know
I see
who's
them
winning.
too.
I know who's winning.
Oh,
shit. I gave you 3 points for the Dave Thomas burn, but
What up?
I guess I scored this on a score between 0 and 3 because nobody got any more than 3 per round.
What are you talking about?
No, per round.
Oh,
Per round.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the winner is still Chris. Colin, you missed by 1 point.
Eat it,
God
nerds!
damn it.
The ice cream
God
point.
damn it. That was fucking sweet.
I had to be. I was close, right? I know I had points.
You had 2. You were in
on.
last place this time.
Fuck you!
Who was in second?
Come on. I thought if you got a Dave Thomas, you automatically won.
Yeah, well, I gave you a lot of points for that, and that was a plan to put you ahead for
that's
that.
worth something.
But yeah, you got second, and John got third. John got 1 point per round.
What did I
At
lose
least
points for?
I'm
Yeah,
consistent.
you got 0 points for the first one and 0 points for the last one.
Fuck everything.
So, Chris, what are we watching?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out because I didn't actually expect to win.
Starship Troopers? Okay.
Starship Troopers 3.
For those of you playing at home, Chris has banned us from ever watching Starship Troopers
Yeah.
because he's afraid we're going to tear off its throat and shit down its neck.
I mean, you'll all be wrong, but the point is that I don't need that in my life.
That kind of negativity.
Okay, for that smart assery, though, you get Wing Commander.
Oh no! Oh no!
Wing
I just
Commander.
saw that on there
Oh,
the other
no.
day.
It's Junior.
Oh god! Oh,
Wait,
God.
guys, I don't know about Wing Commander. What's Wing Commander?
You're welcome.
Ugh,
So
I'm double mad.
yeah, John, read the synopsis of
I'm
Wing
double
Commander.
mad because I can't even win with a Dave Thomas burn, and now I have to watch fucking Wing Commander.
What were you gonna pick, Colin?
Never mind. I'll pick it next time I win. How about that?
Okay,
You
so
wanna-
in 2 years we'll be watching. What
Yeah, exactly.
Colin, we all get into slumps. I mean, it was a miracle that I actually got two.
These games are discriminatory against people who aren't as funny.
That's not true. Otherwise, I never would win. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Next week we are going to be watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'm sorry, a retraction. We're going to be watching Wing Commander.
Well, you know what? Your guys' level of dissatisfaction with this makes me feel like I will be able to drink and make jokes during this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yes, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
a drink and make joke movie. In fact, I'm almost going to make it mandatory. We really should. You really should be.
Nobody's
Sheets
going
to
to be hurt when we tear this movie apart.
No, it's a safe. It's a.
It's a safe bet.
You know what? If we had gone with the original concept of John Hates Movies, where we only did bad movies,
That's what I
and
made
we were
it.
a crappy Riff Tracks clone, then this movie would have definitely probably been like our second review. Yeah. So settle in, boys, and we will see you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
I command all of the wings.
Dude, yeah, I'm going to get a bucket of wings.
Yeah.
Yes. Genius.
Like real wings, this movie gave me the shit. A great big thank you to our staff graphic artist, Tabby Walters, the Weekly Cast, and our listeners. You can listen to our podcast on iTunes, the Stitcher app, through YouTube, or directly on our website. Feel free to send us a movie review suggestion. Every third episode is Listener Appreciation, where we choose from your suggestions. You can reach us through social media, either by liking our Facebook page, John Hates Movies YouTube channel, or following our Twitter at John Hates Movies. Our music was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can find this track and many more on his website, Incompetech.com. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week to hear someone say...
Guys, my dad is a rock. He is an island.